water management. A lot of my work focuses on water issues between Israel and the Palestinians, and also broader with respect to water issues between Israel, the Palestinians, and Jordan, and even beyond that in terms of international work as well. And a lot of the work that I do as a practitioner will be brought into the course as select case studies that are appropriate to understanding the connection between climate change and water resource management. So this is just an overview of why we are talking about the connections between climate and water. This is a schematic of what is called the hydrological cycle, which shows how water moves between the surface of the world, both land and oceans, and the atmosphere. And of course, climate change impacts how this water will evaporate off of land and water surfaces, and how that water will return to the earth in different forms of precipitation, like rain, like snow, ice, and so on. As the world temperature warms, because of the impacts of emissions such as CO2, CH4, and other pollutants entering into the atmosphere. This changes the distribution of water resources around the world, and it also impacts weather patterns. Both of those have significant impacts in terms of water management, both in terms of the supply of water from precipitation, and most importantly, the predictability and availability of water resources. Specifically, the importance of this related to the need for water for agriculture, for irrigation. There are many areas of intersection between how the hydrological cycle works and the regulatory impact of the climate on this cycle. So we will be looking at some of these elements from a scientific perspective, but we will move quite quickly to understanding what this means in terms of the challenges communities face when patterns of water distribution are interrupted due to a changing climate. And here is just a very brief list of what some of these impacts are. And throughout the course, we'll be looking at these issues. We will be debating them, we will be discussing them, we will be drawing from examples and literature in terms of understanding these things, and again, anchoring a lot of these issues with respect to how they play out in terms of their impact on communities. We will look at this also from the perspective of how countries face these issues as well, different regions of the world. So, for example, precipitation pattern changes, sea level rise, water scarcity and competition over water resources. We'll talk about this quite in depth because this very much relates to the reality of what we're dealing here in the Middle East, which is identified both as a hotspot for climate change and also as a hotspot for water scarcity. We'll look at the associated impacts on agriculture, food security, and so on. So what you see here is just a snapshot highlighting some of the topics and themes that we will be discussing on unpacking, if you will, the connections between climate change and water resources. We will also spend a significant portion of our time in the course looking at how to overcome some of these challenges, specifically in terms of understanding what we term adaptation strategies to dealing with changes in water supply, and also resilient strategies in terms of what can be done to promote more sustainable practices with respect to the challenge we face when water becomes more unpredictable in its availabilities. So we will look at policy, technical, and other ranges of tools and ideas on how to overcome these climate change challenges. Again, a lot of this will be discussed through case studies, both here in the Middle East and beyond, and also in terms of bringing some of my own work into these discussions. One example that we will talk about is how Israel as a country has developed adaptation strategies to overcoming water scarcity, mostly through the development of new technologies, specifically with respect to seawater desalination. But we will look at this in a comprehensive way. For example, desalination does improve water supply, but desalination is a very energy-intensive technology, which means that you may be providing more water, but you actually may be even causing even greater impact to the climate, especially if the primary source of energy is still a fossil fuel, which is the case of Israel, because most of Israel's energy is coming from natural gas. And so there is interesting aspects between how to understand the development of a technology that has both costs and benefits with respect to climate change. So those are just some examples of what we're looking at from the perspective of developing solutions to the challenges that I mentioned in the previous slide. And this is just a snapshot of what's happening in the Middle East region, because we're going to be talking about this quite a lot, given that this is a program taking place in Israel in the Middle East. So here you can see how the Middle East region is already facing significant challenges with respect to climate change and water. So in the top left there, we see, for example, predictions of what's going to happen in terms of increased temperatures in a variety of cities in the Middle East, making it probably uninhabitable. For example, the title there says, projected change in the number of days above 40 degrees in the Middle East. So already if you travel to the Gulf countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and others, in July and August, the temperature, Iraq, the temperature can reach above 50 degrees Celsius. And what does that mean for long-term livability of those urban areas? And what does it mean for water resources availability in a country like Iraq, for example, which is politically unstable and also is an extremely water scarce country. Another thing that you can look at here, which we will be discussing in our course, is the impact of sea level rise. Many of the Middle East countries have a significant proportion of their population along the coastline. Israel is certainly a country that has upwards of 90% of its population along the Mediterranean Sea. And even a small rise of sea level could have significant impacts on urban and coastal regions for a country. So how does one understand those impacts, and how does one, of course, figure out ways to overcome them? So that's another example that we will be discussing in class. The third one, if we look at the bottom left, is the specific issue of water scarcity and water shortage. You can see there again on that graph that Israel, Palestine, Qatar, Kuwait, and others are at an extreme index with respect to water scarcity. And this brings about a whole range of very challenging economic, social, and political issues as well, specifically when water resources are shared amongst countries. So we will look at some of the political, legal, economic aspects of how one, for example, puts together water allocation strategies amongst and across different countries when water scarcity is a reality, and that scarcity is only being exacerbated by a changing climate. And the fourth example we see here is the direct impact of the changing climate on the economy of a country, here in terms of impacts on real GDP per capita. The Middle East region is one of the fastest growing regions in the world in terms of population, but they're also at the forefront of both climate change extremes and water extremes, and also dealing with a huge range of challenging political complexities as well. So this is just giving you a sense of the kinds of issues, concepts, case studies, as I said, that we will be discussing throughout the course when the course is offered in the spring 2025 semester. And I think that is my last slide. Yes, so thanks very much. And this presentation or these slides, we can make available to the students or put them on the website as appropriate.
Thank you very much, Clive. Appreciate this and looking forward to your course beginning next academic year. We are very privileged to have with us Sam Tolbert, who is one of our member of the first cohort of students who joined the program. Sam, over to you. Perspective of a student. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, I will give my 7-8 minute spiel. I came into this program. I was an intern at Mochan Arava, which both Clive and Dan mentioned. It's a real, and I was working in agricultural research. I wanted to get more of a critical perspective, more of a sociological perspective on some of the science I was doing and some of the science I'd been exposed to. I found this program through Mahon and Dan and Miri, and it's been really, really, really wonderful. I have a different degree that I plan to sort of complement this one with, and I think that the critical perspective that this degree is giving me on the ecological and the more business-focused aspects of my next degree are something that are going to intellectually provide me a lot of satisfaction and perspective, and on a practical level, I think make that education much more rich. And I think whatever I plan to do, I will be really glad to have had this sort of these perspectives in sociology and anthropology. As part of one of my electives, I was able to take Clive's class, actually, and that it's a wonderful class. And that sort of is my second point. I think academically, sorry, there's an airplane. Academically, it's really well designed in a way that was almost a pretty pleasant surprise. I did my undergraduate degree in America, and at an American institution, sometimes you're sort of set out to float a little bit. You organize your own classes. You get this very nice broad education that doesn't necessarily speak to each other. And even talking to my friends who are in graduate school in this as well, sometimes degrees don't really feel or coherent. And I have not had that experience at all with this program. The classes speak to each other in really great ways. The texts don't repeat, but they really speak to each other. And you'll have a week or two where two courses are sort of speaking about the same thing. One from more of a, just give an example, we're in Rami's Climate and Capitalism course, and we're discussing the sociology of organizations and private organizations within sort of firms and who function within capital and financial markets. And in Dan's class, we're talking about how states are functioning in the past 20, 30 years with post-oil economic planning, and they sort of intersect in the market. And we're getting these two different views that are really enrich each other and really speak to each other. In terms of other students, this is a great cohort. You get a very diverse group of students. You get Israelis, you get Europeans, you get Africans, you get North Americans, you get Palestinians. You have a really wonderful cohort. Everyone is bringing in their own expertise, very diverse amount of undergraduates, hard sciences, soft sciences. I was humanities, and then I did research for a while. It's a really rich learning environment and close. And I think, it's been a really great experience intellectually academically as well as sort of socially. I'm doing a thesis, and my thesis is going to be, it's preliminary at the moment. Dan is one of my supervisors, so I won't say how preliminary, but I'm doing a sociology, an ethnography of wildland firefighters in the Western United States. And I was given tremendous freedom to select the topic. I was able to find supervisors, very generous supervisors who it's Miri and Dan actually, who were very eager just to allow me to sort of take this and run with it and find out. And that's incredibly rewarding. And I think sort of the merit of it being a smaller program and a more sort of tight community-based program. I've been in bigger institutions where you kind of have to bop around and knock on doors, and I found that I was able to come up with an idea for a thesis, develop it a little bit on my own, and that the program was incredibly receptive and sort of willing to allow me to sort of pursue it. And I'm still pursuing it. Haven't quite pursued it yet, but it is really exciting, and it was smooth in a way that sort of allows you to follow your own intellectual angle within this field, which, to speak to sort of Dan's main point, I feel is an incredibly important one to be moving into the next century, 20 years of climate change, and the way that economies, the way that societies, the way that individuals are going to have to shift and organize and reorganize and perceive and re-perceive themselves and the systems they work in, is I feel like really able to hit every angle. I classes are challenging, which has been great, and sophisticated, and the teaching has been very enthusiastic. And I'm a fan of the program. And Yochi, you're welcome to share my email with whomever if they have questions. And let's have a minute spiel.
Thank you very much, Sam, for your contribution this afternoon. I learned a few things from you about how you see it from your point of view, and that's nice. We've gone 45 minutes, and as far as we're concerned, our parts that we wanted to share with you have been completed. If there's anyone who would like to raise a question, they can do it now, either by chat or by unmuting yourselves and asking us the question orally. Or if you would like to do it later, then by email, as we mentioned, Yochi Binki's, the administrator's email is already in the chat. Yochi herself is with us still on camera here, as is Ayelet Fishman, the director of the international programs at our Faculty of Social Sciences, and we have Clive Lipchin with us. So yes, questions, queries, we can spend a few more minutes to do that.
Danny, maybe we should mention the scholarship.
Yes, please do.
So we do have scholarship. Tower International have some scholarship. It's not a full scholarship, but it's contribute to your tuition fee. So it's also something that the programs have, and we recommend that if you get admitted to the program to try and get also the scholarship.
Thank you, Yochi. So if there are no questions at the moment, we may decide that call it a day. I'd like to thank everyone again. Thank you, Clive, Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Yochi, and Ayelet, who's no longer with us. And we hope to see some of you in coming months and in joining our program for next academic year. Bye-bye and have a good day.
Thank you.
Yochi. No, okay. Okay.